Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here and welcome to B-Ball Breakdown. A nice Sunday morning for you. So I want to let you know we're not going to have the FN Fantasy Show tonight. We're going to do it on Tuesday. A lot of great stuff, so don't miss that Tuesday evening. And let's get to the Knicks Grizzlies. Now my rule is generally that you can only have one knucklehead on a team. So Dennis Rodman, for instance, on the Bulls was the one knucklehead and everyone else kind of kept him even. But when you have three on the Knicks, like Carmelo Anthony, Tyson Chandler, and J.R. Smith, then you're going to have some problems. And when you're playing on the road against a tough team, they're going to frustrate you, and if you don't keep your cool and your discipline, you ain't going to win that game. Sorry, Knicks fans, but it's a problem. They also have a problem with their defensive philosophy that I'm going to show you, and that's why I believe that they're not going to finish in the top 10 defensively overall when you get a big enough sample size. So the Grizzlies start out right away screening with Melo's man, knowing he's pretty bad at hedging, and there he is reaching and not moving his feet. A big issue I have defensively is when a team doubles the post when the man is one pass away. There you see Felton's man is close. You'll see Jason Kidd rotate up even though Allen, his man, is cutting to the hoop. They miss him on the layup though, but again they double team off of the cutter, which is even worse, and they give up a layup. Raymond Felton makes a mistake here on the pick and roll because you'll see that Corey Brewer is going to dive to the hoop, and that's going to let Jason Kidd slide in behind him for the open three. He throws it to Brewer behind him. He points it to him, but then he looks like he says, "My bad, let's move on," which is a good point guard move. And they give up the layup. Memphis played great physical defense all night long. Mike Conley bodies up on Kidd on the cut. Tony Allen's going to chase Felton around that screen, and Marc Gasol is going to clog the lane. And here is Rudy Gay coming over to put pressure on Melo. Now, while Melo scores, that's a tough shot to make, and that's going to wear you out. On the flip side, watch how the Knicks allow the Memphis Grizzlies to play catch with each other. None of these passes is pressured or deflected, and even though they missed this shot by Marc Gasol, it's a nice, easy, rhythmic shot. While I should like Tony Allen, it's plays like this that make me hate his game. Here he travels on the catch. He's going to travel again, but he gets it stripped before he finishes the shot. He doesn't practice offense enough, even though he's a really great defender. Again, this is bad defensive philosophy when you double the post off of the cutter. It forces Tyson Chandler to have to come over and help. He loses position quickly against Zebo, so naturally there's the offensive rebound. This killed the Knicks all night long. Now watch Memphis' defense. Rudy Gay does a simple denial and pushes the offense of the Knicks even higher up the floor, taking much more time, so when they finally do ISO on Melo, the shot clock is working against them and he has to take a quick pull-up that misses. The offensive rebounds by Memphis weren't necessarily caused by bad boxing out. Here you'll see a double team from one pass away again, when it should be Jason Kidd coming over off of the terrible shooting Tony Allen. They do rotate, but now they're out of position matchup-wise, and of course there's the offensive rebound. On the reset, they are now scrambling, and now they're not in position to hedge on a screen and roll, and there's Rudy Gay who's going to pull up for an open jumper. The Knicks kept pace by hitting some tough jump shots, but here you'll see Raymond Felton throw perhaps one of the worst alley-oops you could attempt, but somehow it comes right back to him for the tip-in. And Knicks fans, be prepared because opponents will screen and roll with Melo's man incessantly because Melo is awful at closing out. And isolations were not helping them much at all in this game because the defense was so good. Here's a really tough contested shot by Melo that misses, and they have to stop the ball in transition, but J.R. Smith does not step up, and they get a fast break layup even though everybody went for the offensive board. The ISOs weren't working for Melo all night because the defense could all slide over and get in his way. And here's the beginning of his frustrations with the refs. He goes to the hoop, gets fouled, gets the call, and yet look at him. He's walking around out there all upset, sits down on the bench all frustrated, and this is the beginning of him completely losing his, One of the missing pieces with Memphis was Mike Conley's shooting. Over the summer, he seems to have worked on it, and if he can continue to be consistent with this shot, look out. Rudy Gay's defense was responsible for frustrating the heck out of Melo, and you can see here at the end of the first quarter, he was finally fed up with taking it and lowers his shoulder and knocks him over for an offensive charge and a turnover. Again, bad defensive philosophy. Novak helps one pass away off of a 44% three-point shooter open in the corner. Until Rasheed Wallace lost his mind later, he was doing some damage in the post. He swings his arms through with both hands on the ball, so it's hard to call an offensive charge on that. Remember, we talked about not helping on penetration when your man is one pass away. And watch Ellington here, how he's going to jab his foot, but he's always getting back toward his man. Pondexter stays with Novak, and J.R. Smith is forced to take a tough shot that bricks. And here they might be tired on a back-to-back because Chandler should be a lot higher on this hedge. If you let an NBA guard turn the corner on a pick and roll and get in the lane, they're going to score. Now, the best shooter in the city of Memphis right now is Steve Novak, and watch how Pondexter is going to fall asleep, let him cut to the top, and give him an open three, but he gets away with it. A minute later, he's doing a nice job until he turns his head to find the ball and loses Novak, who won't miss that one. If it wasn't clear before, it should be clear now that Melo is awful at closing out on the pick and pop, and teams will do this to them all season long. Here's a great Memphis offensive set where they do a curl around the low post, which then becomes a pinch post cut. But the genius here is that Zebo is going to duck in, and that takes Sheed away from the help defense, and he has to foul. And here's the part where J.R. Smith elbows Bayless, but if they had called this travel, watch how Melo catches the ball, right foot pivot, then he's going to switch his pivot foot again to his left. That's a travel. We never would have had the feistiness later on. And you gotta love how J.R. Smith throws his hands up like he didn't do anything in this. And getting back in transition on defense, watch Memphis play this beautifully where everyone's helping each other, they're all on a string, and it makes it impossible for any penetration to happen with the Knicks. Ultimately, this pressure forces a turnover. However, Pondexter seems to be the weak link in this defense because he loses his man quite often. There goes Brewer for a layup on a cut. I might start my NBA team with Rudy Gay because he's got long arms, he's really tough, he's going to give anybody problems on both ends of the floor every night. With a minute to go, they take out Carmelo Anthony, and this is a mistake because you want to finish the half on a good note, and he's your primary scorer, so they should have changed the rotation so he would finish the half. I mean, he's trying to give him some rest, I guess, but he's about to have halftime to rest. Anyway, watch this beautiful Marc Gasol dream shake where he fakes to the middle, comes back up and under, beautiful righty soft touch. And here's a sign that it probably wasn't the Knicks' night. Rasheed Wallace gets a beautiful block on a Conley drive, but it ends up right back in his hands for an open three. So Woodson puts Melo back in, who's now cold. They don't even set one screen for the guy and expect him to ISO and make a shot at the buzzer, which is late. Terrible. The second half was a little bit better in the half court for the Knicks defense. You'll see Melo close out on Rudy Gay on the hedge, and everyone rotates well, but when you have someone like Marc Gasol, it's better offense. I guess I'm not a fan of Raymond Felton. Here's another terrible lob thrown to Chandler, and somehow he gets up there and gets it to go in. And I really am not a fan of Tony Allen's game. His footwork is terrible, he's out of control, and it's a turnover and a foul. The bottom line, it was unfair to Melo to have to guard Marc Gasol the whole time. They should have switched off and had him try and guard Zebo. You could see him just getting beaten down there in the post. And here's where the wheels fell off. They call a foul on Melo because his arm is wrapped on top of Gasol's arm. And he needs to learn that whenever that happens and his arm is on top, it's going to be a foul on him no matter what. But his frustration boils over. He says some choice words to the ref and they tee him up, and he has lost his, The Knicks try to run a flat screen and roll, but Conley forces to one side. Zebo does a great job containing, and they're all playing great defense, except for Rudy Gay, who falls asleep. But look at that incredible recovery and block. Without Melo in there, who's lost his stuff, they have to throw up a bad shot that goes out of bounds. On the road against a good team, you have to have discipline on defense. Watch Ronnie Brewer unnecessarily come off of his man under the basket to fly by Gasol, giving them a layup that ultimately gets tipped in. Another mistake by Woodson. Without Melo, they have no one in there who can score really well, and J.R. Smith is not in there. Do you really think having Felton dribble 13 times and then jacking that shot up was a good offense? So they're down 10, they call the timeout, drew up a play for Jason Kidd to get a screen and roll. It doesn't even get set for him. And then they get J.R. Smith way out on the top, who tries to attack against the best defender, Tony Allen, and that's the shot they get? So Memphis wants to put this game down, and they go to Marcus All in the post. Great opportunity to get a good shot. Rasheed Wallace does okay on defense, but ultimately hacks him on the shot, and here's where the wheels completely fall off as he runs away after the technical foul by Melo. They're not going to take this kind of stuff, and they tee him up, and he has also lost his, well, you know. And it got so bad he couldn't calm down that he even starts screaming at the ref when he's trying to tell him how many free throws there are left.
He's had a great game plan tonight. Gasol versus Anthony.
And when you get all amped up like Rasheed is right now, it's hard to play well, and little things happen like this. He just drops the ball out of his hands and Memphis comes running right back down. And so it doesn't take a genius to know what to do next to go right back at Sheed in the post. He does an okay job, but then there's Chandler fouling on the offensive rebound of Zebo, and he loses his stuff. So they've been doubling in the post a lot this game, but for some reason with Kurt Thomas in there, they let Zebo go one-on-one against him, and he sweeps right by him for a one-handed beautiful hook. It's Woodson's turn to go a little bit nuts because he wanted to travel on that play. So they're down by 15 on the road, need a good shot, and there's J.R. Smith jacking up a terrible one with 15 seconds to go on the shot clock. And here comes Woodson, who's still complaining about the no call on the travel of Zebo's move. They tee him up, and can you read lips? So when the coach starts to lose his stuff, now you got J.R. Smith who's going to go on a wild ISO and dive for the ball, almost take out his own man. And as he's running back, he knows where his man is. It's Tony Allen. He sizes him up the whole way through and takes him out on that foul. The problem here is on the follow-through, you're going to see him yanking his arm down, and that's what becomes the flagrant, and that, in my book, becomes something very dirty and could have really hurt him. And if you're wondering if it's important to keep your cool on the road, this stat says it all. So there you have it, sports fans. Memphis is a team to be reckoned with, and no one's going to want to play them in a 7-game playoff series. And between them and the Clippers, I'm not so sure OKC or the Lakers are going to be able to compete with them. We'll see. The Knicks are going to be able to take advantage of a weaker Eastern Conference, but the way their defensive philosophy is structured now, from what I see, it's not about being a back-to-back and being tired. It's simply about them falling out of the top 10 in the defense with a bigger sample size, and probably not being able to compete with the top 3 teams in the East. So, if there's any basketball coaches out there, check out crossover.com. It's a really cool thing where you can upload stuff, and we've been starting to use it, and they'll slice and dice it up for you and have it all ready to go within a day. So, check that out. And let's see here. Don't forget our FN Fantasy Show Tuesday night this week. And it's a great thing if you want to win your fantasy league. Get in there right now and watch it. So, don't forget, at B-Ball Breakdown, it's not a channel, it's a conversation. You win,